Good morning. I thought I'd make this video to re-emphasize why. Why the title Agent Provocateur? I'll get into that in a second, because 2 days ago, as you know, I dropped a video asking the questions why, and a very important one was pointing out a statement that was made that could be checked and verified, but also changed the narrative. Why has nobody picked up on this is a very, very good question. But more importantly, there's one individual that has really gone out of their way to expose Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez as a liar. Well, we all know she's a liar. That's not the point. The point was, why did she state something that they knew about the attack 6 days beforehand? An attack, if it is spontaneous, you would not know anything about it. So why would she say that? That's an important question of why. So let's bring in the agent provocateur, Mr. Jack Posobiec. Jack Posobiec is an interesting character. Here is his Twitter feed. As you can see, he's trolling there with Raheem Kassem, who's with One American News. Yeah, good on him. He's got somewhere. He's also naval intelligence. But you see, Jack exposing the lie, AOC realizing she's busted. So why, Jack, if you're exposing the lie, did you not expose the real question within that lie, where she stated they knew about the 6 days? Now, either you did it deliberately, or you're ignorant, or you just wanted the attention. Which brings me to the other question. See, because Tim Pool, who I have respect for, but Tim Pool also has missed that important sentence in there. She stated, now if you go to the video, which I showed at the beginning, this one on Rumble, is also on YouTube, but if somebody could put this to Tim Pool and ask him this question: why did you ignore the sentence that she said they knew about it for 6 days beforehand? Well, Tim, do you have an answer for that? I know Jack Posobiec won't, because Jack Posobiec is quite an arrogant individual. But Jack Posobiec came on the scene when he started doing Citizens for Trump. He wrote a paperback book. And this was done in 2017, where he was one of the main people for the deplorables. He was the person involved in that. But how do I know Jack Posobiec? I only met Jack Posobiec once, and that was in Warsaw. There I am, there's Jack Posobiec, and there's his father. In the screen here, we have another individual who's now sitting in Florida, awaiting his outcome, but another conspiracy and complete BS merchant, Phil McConnell, his former partner, who is now working with this organization of Crowdsource the Truth with Jason Goodman. Is also the other character involved in here is Kevin Shipp, the former CIA officer, who in this video accuses me of being an agent for some 3-letter agency, which is, as I said, and here's a challenge for you, Mr. Shipp. I will give you £1,000 sterling if you can prove that I am an agent of a 3-letter agency, and I want to see the documentation to prove that. If you cannot do that, Mr. Shipp, then you need to retract that statement publicly and state so. But I won't be holding my breath on that one. You see, this is the whole reason why I came into all of this, why I got so angry with Mr. Goodman, with his behaviour, and Mr. Hawkins, who were pushing out conspiracy theories and lies, which I exposed. In fact, the biggest one was Christine Marcy. I exposed that, and they don't talk about that anymore. Or they don't talk about the fact that Sir Nicholas Soames raped Christine Marcy, which was also another fantasy of Phil McConnell and David Hawkins, mainly David Hawkins, of course. But let's go back to Mr. Jack Posobiec. Here we have two of the great conspiracy theorists on the internet. This here is Mr. George Webb, ergo George Schweikart. The other partner in crime at that time is Mr. Jason Goodman. In this video, Mr. Webb says, oh, it's a traditional Polish wedding, which shows you Mr. Webb's ignorance. Actually, a Belarusian wedding, because Tanya is from Belarus, not from Poland. Jack Posobiec's family is from Poland. Tanya Tay is actually from Belarus. But, you know, get to know your facts a little bit more. Another character, well, by the way, before we go on further, this also the connection between Jack Posobiec and these two is when I spoke to Jack Posobiec, he said he was good friends with him. George Webb here states that, oh, our friend Jack. And Mr. Goodman has also stated our friend Jack. Even in this video here, he states our friend Jack. So Jack is connected to Mr. Goodman and Mr. Webb. Both of them conspiracy theorists. Both of them pushing out nonsense. Don't forget the Port of Charleston and also the Wuhan virus story that Mr. Webb pushed out. Now this one is this is Lee Stranahan. This is an interview with Richard Spencer on con artists Mike Cernovich and Jack Posobiec. Mr. Spencer, who is an individual I don't know nothing really about, I'm not going to make any assertions on him, but his conversation is very interesting. I know a bit about Mr. Stranahan, and Mr. Stranahan is somebody of reputable reputation in his past, but also he's set up his Citizen Journalist School, CJS. Was also another person that pointed out Jack Posobiec as well, also stating that he was the person that had the Rape Melania sign at the Antifa rally. Was actually Jack Posobiec in disguise in Antifa. So here we have some more clarifications of Jack Posobiec's shady past. But I wonder if One American News knows all of this. Whether they're aware of Mr. Posobiec's dark history. Here, Mr. Jack Posobiec is speaking for the March for Trump. This was done October the 17th in 2019. Mr. Posobiec has been at the forefront of a lot of things. But again, my question is why Mr. Posobiec is quite happily to protect AOC. Because that's what's happened to you. By exposing her as a lie, they've also protected her from the serious questions is if you knew about this for 6 days, who else knew about it and why was nobody informed? Here we have him as Agent Poso, his comic book he created, Task Force Aegis. I'm going to explain what Aegis is in a minute because for those that don't know mythology, I will put it forward to you in a second. Here we have Agent Tay, who is the actual artist for this comic book, and that's Tanya Tay, his wife. Very, very nice woman, actually, from the time I did meet them for the very brief period of my life, all of 30 minutes of my time. Here we have Agent Poso, the point man. I mean, are you, is it projecting yourself as something, as a secret agent man, as a double agent? What are you, Jack Posobiec? Because I'm starting to really have some real questions. So what is Aegis? Aegis is a shield carried primarily by Zeus, a Greek mythology, which is sometimes lent to Athena. According to other sources, it was not a shield, but rather an animal skin worn over the garments of the gods, and as extra protection. It bore the head of a Gorgon and made a terrible roaring sound during the battle. The Aegis was forged by the Cyclops in Hephaestus, forged and had golden serpent-like scales and a Gorgon's head rolling its eyes in some texts. It was mentioned that when Zeus would shake the Aegis, clouds would cover Mount Ida and men would hide in fear. In Greek, the word Aegis has various meanings, including violent windstorm, a divine shield, a goatskin garment. So we know now what Aegis is. We also have another book that Mr. Posobiec brought out, which is 4D Warfare, a doctrine of new generation of politics. The synopsis reads as follows: 4D Warfare, a doctrine for a new generation of politics, is a revolutionary guide to applying the basic principles of military intelligence to social media, written by a proven master of the information space in 4D Warfare. Author Jack Posobiec explains how the social media narrative is established and the way it is influenced over time by competing parties. Through utilizing the concepts of effective information management, intelligence, deception, misdirection, and research explained in the book, those who understand the practice and principles of 4D warfare will be able to obtain and maintain social media superiority in an age of increasingly heated cultural war. Interesting. We shall go back to the beginning of Agent Provocateur. He said this is a guy who uses a lot of memes. He was a person behind the meme wars. He likes to be centre of attention as well. When I met him, he seemed quite off-putting and quite arrogant. He comes across as, this really nice guy. I don't think so. I didn't really particularly appreciate that at the time. I warned him about people like George Soros at the time because I was telling him things that were going on in Poland. Obviously, I wasn't that good at putting myself across more properly. But one thing I have learned is, as you can see, he has put all this about AOC, but not once has he asked the question why, if they knew about the so-called attack 6 days beforehand, was no security put up in its place. Why is a bloody good in question. And that is why I want Mr. Posobiec to say why he hasn't looked at it. Or is Mr. Posobiec actually working for and protecting AOC in a roundabout way? I mean, we're talking of 4D Warfare. I mean, this is the guy that wrote 4D Warfare. I find it interesting because Mr. Posobiec has literally put himself on the scene. And that is why I've made this video today. My question is quite simply, why did you not ask that simple question? If you knew about it for 6 days, why was the Capitol Police so unprepared for what happened? I will leave you on that note, but maybe some people can ask Tim Pool why. It is an important question. Toodle pips.